She definitely thinks she's seen something. Yeah, we're going to move around a little bit and see if we can see what she's spotted. While we do that, let's dash across to Jamie and a feathered friend.
A really beautiful and really quite vocal feathered friend. We're sitting with a happy, chirpy, yellow-throated longclaw. So I thought we could all do with a little bit of brightness this morning, and this bird certainly provides. I'm just going to be quiet for a moment because this is the best way to learn a bird call. Oh, come on, you were singing so beautifully. Now you're half-hearted. It got shy. It was chirping merrily away. The best way to learn a bird call is to watch the bird making the sound. Listening to recorded bird calls is one thing, hearing the bird and not seeing it is another, and being told what it is. But if you really want to remember it, watching the bird make the call. Come on, pretty bird. One more time? Nah. It's gone ducking off behind the grass. Fortunately, we've got some other things to keep you distracted as well. Interesting sight, and it's a nice little reminder. If you ever go walking in the Masai Mara, don't walk in the luggers. It would be a very bad idea. Lugger being a drainage line, one of these sort of river systems, the passage of water that has cut into the marsh. You might just find yourself in the midst of 5 sleeping hippopotamus, all gathered together. They've got the entire Mara River about, I'd say, less than a kilometre, much less than a mile away, and they've all decided this is where they want to be. That, of course, is the price the hippos pay for quite a high population, especially in times of, not drought necessarily, but during the drier times of year. Competition for space becomes fierce, particularly between males. They're having a perfect snooze in the mud. Here we go. You can see that guy's been fighting quite seriously. There are wounds across his back, and I'm saying his back because it's most likely a male, given those fighting injuries. And that's probably come from another hippopotamus. Those injuries are very typical along the spine, puncture wounds, and then scrapes from their massive canines. Now, competition amongst hippo is natural. Males will fight for space and for dominance, and you'll find males beaten up like this. But it does bring us to Heather's question, which was, how would climate change affect the Masai Mara? It depends on the way that it actually plays out here. I think the chances are it will mean it becomes much drier. The Mara is a very wet place on average. There's much more rain here than there is in the low veld of South Africa, which is where Tristan is at the moment. I think you'd probably find, and Kenya is in the midst of a really serious drought, particularly to the north of the country. In fact, the Mara's fared relatively well. But what I think you'll probably find, I don't know, I mean, I'm not an expert in exactly how climate change will play out, but I would guess and say that it'll make the rains much less reliable, and that in turn will have impacts across the board. It will mean less grass, it will mean less space for the hippos, less space in the river. It will change the ecosystem completely. It's been amazing experiencing a completely different climate here. It's so temperate, and there's so much rain. I wonder what we're going to do. And there's the rains are coming in November. And that's not even the big rains, that's just the little rains, the small rains. It's going to be very interesting to see what life is like here. I don't think we'll be driving around here, that's for certain. This place will turn to mush. I think we're going to spend a lot of time digging, Manu. A lot of time digging, a lot of time packing rocks under the car. Jacking up in mud. It's coming. This has been easy. By the way, this is just a gentle reminder. Remember the whole Marshmallow Club thing? that Brent brought up and raised and said, you know, which of us is going to be stuck first? After the TV show, our last TV show 2 weeks ago, as it finished, Brent turned around to high-five Dave and fell into a muddy hole and got stuck. I just wanted to put that out there. He kept it very quiet, but I just thought I'd share that little secret with all of you. He got out. No, he didn't. He got pushed out. He got pushed out. So that really counts as stuck. You're not really stuck until you can't get yourself out. But he got pushed out by another vehicle. So I'm just saying, Marshmallow Club, lots of bravado. Who's going to get stuck first? Just putting it out there. Don't tell him I told you, though. He'd be deeply, deeply hurt. It's entirely his own fault, though. He was so full of nonsense about how I was going to get stuck. Okay. Team? Is that little wildebeest? Is that a lost little wildebeest? Oh, shame. Oh, little one. You are really in the wrong place. So you see so many of these little guys. They get separated from the rest of the herd during a lion hunt or something like that, or a river crossing, and they just really struggle to reunite. They go and they make friends with zebra. I don't think the baboon's going to be a very friendly little buddy. Shame, and sometimes you drive along and you just see them galloping, desperately looking for family, or any other wildebeest. And there's not a wildebeest to be seen apart from this little chap. It could be absolutely fine, you know. If it sticks in the company of other animals, zebra will tolerate it, all of the other antelope will tolerate its presence. If it sticks with them, it might be fine. And the wildebeest will, as Brent said, they follow the reins. So it could be that the wildebeest come back this side, and this little baby finds its, if not its family, then at least a foster family. Aww. Yep. It's just looking for company. It's amazing how social animals do that. When they're on their own, particularly youngsters, when they're on their own, they join up with any company will do. I've seen eland do it with giraffe, I've seen eland do it with cows. One memorable moment was a young rhino that I spent a lot of time tracking many years ago. His mom was poached, but he was young enough to still want to be in her company, and he became a wildebeest. He stayed with the wildebeest herd until he reached around about 5 or 6 years old. Oh, shame. Will you guys be my family? Inching closer and closer. There's a Finding Nemo story in this. You could do an amazing children's film with a lost baby wildebeest. Here's a warthog. He might be friendly. You can try him. I'm not sure the zebra might not have been the best call. They're not exactly friendly, welcoming creatures. Oh, dejected. Our Lara Moore, yeah, absolutely he is. Or she, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Absolutely. This calf is old enough to live off grass. It's weaned. If it was with mum, it would still be trying to suckle. However, she would be hugely reluctant to do so. Oh, baby. But this wildebeest calf is more than capable of surviving on its own. Right, while our little baby wildebeest searches for, if not family, then at least a friend, it seems as though Brent is searching for other things. Well,
I think those impalas saw saw a stone, so I decided to come back towards the lions. Oh no, they're still there, but they're doing very typical Paradise Pride things, which is sleeping in crotons at this time of the day. Now, of course, I'm not referring to what we put in our soup. Croton is one of the more common tree species along the edge of the Mara River. And there we go. There's a few of them. Little ones, the cubs. I can't see any of the lionesses currently. And it has become very, very windy here at the moment. I'm just trying to make sure the lionesses haven't managed to sort of sneak off on a hunt. I doubt. I think they are a very flat cat in those thickets somewhere. Let's just move forward a skosh, see if we can see one of them. There is one of the ladies, as I suspected, lounging. And Tony's wondering, do the Paradise Pride have the best hunting territory? Well, when the wildebeest are here, almost certainly, they have a really, really good territory, of course, on the main crossing points. And the thing that makes it such a good territory is often wildebeest and zebra and topi will injure themselves during the crossing or get injured by a crocodile. So it makes it that much easier for the lions to catch them after they're fatigued of struggling against the current, the crocodiles, each other. And it makes it quite nice and easy for the lions to just snack upon them. Now, where is that? What was that? There was something running in the distance. A lone zebra looking for friends. When the wind starts blowing like this, it's incredible. It almost cuts off all your hearing. All you can sort of hear is the wind through the grass. Okay, well, we're going to leave these lions to snooze on while we do that. Stephen is asking, are the lion territories in the Mara bigger or smaller or the same as in Djuma? I would say they're actually quite a bit smaller, Stephen. And the reason for that is the high density of game. So even during the non-migration season around these areas, there's still a huge amount of animals, and that is due to the grasslands. So where Djuma is a woodland, you're never going to get the same density of animals. So the lion prides have, on average, a much larger home range and a much bigger core territory than in the Mara. So Inkahumas, for example, have a home range of about 10,000 hectares, maybe a little, yeah, about 10,000 hectares, with a core range of about, I'd say they've maybe got a home range of 2,500 hectares with a core of about 1,000 hectares around the crossings. The Angamas as well, they've probably even got a smaller core, maybe the home range of about the same 2,000 to 3,000 hectares with a core range of about 1,000 hectares. And that's just because there is so much available food even during the non-migration season. So there's, of course, the wildebeest, zebra, and Thompson's gazelles that migrate in and out, but they're resident buffalo, they are resident Thompson's gazelles, there's resident zebra, impala, eland, waterbuck, Grant's gazelle, I think I said buffalo, hippo, which they all feed on during that time. Now, while we leave our lions, it seems like Tristan has left his leopard, and hopefully he hasn't spilt anything else on his drive around Djuma this morning.
No, I haven't, Brent. I've managed to keep everything tidy and clean. It seems as though Jamie and I have both got issues this morning with tea. Both of us seem to have spilt them, which is just horrible. But as you can see, at least Ntima is home today, so she's just on the back side of the den. We thought there wasn't any sign of them, but there she is. She's busy moving around, and it is warm, so I think she might be going down into the den itself to go and get out of this hot sun that is baking down. In fact, it is really getting very warm at the moment. But we had to leave him Vula. Unfortunately, he was sleeping under a bush and we just couldn't get signal. We tried every direction. We tried from far, we tried from near, and there was just no ways for us to get a reception at all. We were just 000 on the signal sort of chart, so we had to then move and leave him where he was. So I thought, well, I'll come check Hyena Den in case that carcass that he had in the drag mark that we saw was maybe dragged in this direction. But at the moment it seems as though that is not the case, because there's no drag towards where we are at the moment, and I don't think there is any sign of a carcass. Now, of course, Ntima has decided to disappear. Did it go down, Seb? Let's just try and check. Still there. Oh, there you are. Were you just sleeping? So it's still got that little face peering out, and look how big she's gotten. You are getting very large now, and super spotty as well. A lot of that black coloration has disappeared, and it's nice to see her around again, because I haven't seen hyenas in a long time. I'm sure a lot of you that like the hyenas are very happy to see Ntima. I'm going to go forward so that grass is not in the face set. Just give me, should be better. We just say when you can see her face. Okay. There's going to be a bit of grass, but at least if we can just see her eyes, it'll be a little bit better. There we go. Hello, little one. Are you tired? She looks as though she's tired. Carsten from Denmark, hyenas will most definitely groom each other. I have seen them, particularly the mothers with their young ones. They will groom them quite extensively, keep them nice and warm. Nice and clean, sorry. And then you'll find with the adults, the females sometimes groom themselves a little bit, but not quite as much as what you'll see with cats. So the lions and leopards and cheetah, they groom each other extensively in comparison to what you would see from hyena. There's just a few little bits of grooming here and there, but nothing major. And it's why, to some degree, hyenas tend to look a little bit scruffier later in life. You'll find their ears start to wear off a little bit, and even the matriarchal females, by the end of their lives, their ears are quite tatty, and that's from ticks and various other things that get onto there. And so they don't groom each other as much as what you'd see with a cat, but there is still some grooming that does take place, and it's part of just affirming those bonds and making sure that they all know who's in the clan and looking after one another. But you'll find it's also low-ranking females will do it, and high-ranking females, but not into between. I've never seen a high-ranking female grooming a low-ranking female. They generally stay quite far away from them and do their own thing. But I think little Ntima has been exploring, because when I drove in, I saw her tracks, tiny little tracks, coming out from Gallagher's shortcut. So obviously Ntima at night now is starting to move away from the den and starting to kind of just check around. It doesn't go far, they just go out onto the road and back again, but slowly but surely she's starting to explore her surroundings. And you'll find that this is quite common. Generally around 8 months they are starting to do that. You remember, she's now about that age, so they do start kind of exploring around, and by a year they really are quite mobile and moving anywhere. And she's going to become a naughty little hyena over the next bit, because at a year old they are still very curious, and they often go into lodges and cause all kinds of trouble. I remember there was a group of 5 young ones that were part of the EP clan when I was at Simambili, and those 5 took a liking to the cushions, and they used to come onto the deck and they would take the cushions out to the front, in front of the lodge, onto an open section, and they would just pull them apart, and you'd wake up in the morning and there would be all these duck feathers or feathers strewn across the open area and pillows everywhere, and 5 naughty 1-year-old hyenas running around playing and just having a grand old time. So they do, when they're that age, they often start exploring, and lodges are one of the places they like to go, because lots of little things to chew and bite and sniff and play with in a lodge. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Ntima takes after her mother Ribbon and starts to come and look in the bins around the camp. And we know that Ribbon has tormented Taylor's sleeping pattern for months, and so I'm sure Ntima will follow suit at some point. But I haven't seen any sign of Gwen here or Ribbon this morning, so I don't think we'll see the little ones. They were still a bit small to come out on their own accord. You might find they'll only come out when Gwen is here. Rochelle, you want to know what animals are hyenas friendly with? The answer to that is none, really. Hyenas are not even friendly towards one another within the clan. You'll find that the higher-ranking females will even chase the males and lower-ranking females around a bit, unless there's a danger element. If there's something like lions, then they'll all band together. But they really aren't friendly to anything. They will eat any sort of meat that they can. So we see them eating tortoises all the way up to elephant. They'll hunt. They'll chase after predators. They're really not that friendly. But what you will find is young hyenas. So ones like Ntima or young males, like what we saw with Hosanna the other day, they sometimes can be nonchalant, if you want to call it, around predators, so it's particularly leopard. You'll find they'll lie quite close to a leopard and kind of look at them, but they're not really friendly to them. It's just that there's a carcass around and that distracts them more than anything else. Hyenas, unfortunately, don't make friends easily, and that's when you steal food and you kill the others that you're not stealing from, then it's quite tough to make friends. You can just imagine the hyenas all sitting around in a meeting in a circle telling each other about their feelings and how they're upset that nobody wants to be friends with them. But like I say, if you're killing and then stealing from the ones you're not killing, then it's quite tough to make friends with anybody. Is it hard in Ntima to make friends? Are you a social outcast? I hope not. Heather, you're wondering about the common misconceptions about hyenas. There are plenty. People think that they are these ferocious, aggressive, horrible, dirty, disgusting animals, and they are anything but that. They are incredibly clever individuals. They are able to work things out. They're clean. They do keep themselves groomed, and you can see Ntima right now is grooming herself. They don't smell. Everybody always thinks that hyenas smell really bad. The only time they smell is if they've been feeding off a carcass that has rotted. But other than that, they really don't. There's no scent while we're sitting here. It's not unpleasant to sit here. They're not aggressive in any way. When we here with the vehicles, you can see they kind of roam around us, but they don't show an aggression towards us. They also are not strictly scavengers. The misconception is that they only steal food from other predators. That's not true. Most of the hyenas that I've been around hunt for themselves quite regularly. In fact, in some areas of the world where the numbers of hyenas outweigh the numbers of lions, you'll find the lions actually become the scavengers and the hyenas are more the hunters in that particular system. So there's a big misconception about that. Also the misconception that hyenas travel around in packs all the time. That's not true, or in clans, should we say. They spend a lot of time on their own at night, moving around in different directions, and the reason for that is because if they split from a central point and everyone goes in a different way, the chances of finding food for the clan is that much better, and so everyone's finding a different area and searching a different area. It's much like us as Game Drive. We all head on a different road, and that allows us then to cover more area and find more things. As soon as they find something that they need the help of the clan with, they then vocalize and the clan will come in, and then they can take over whatever carcass that is, or hunt whatever animal it is. But they're not animals that spend all their life walking together. You'll find often they sprint out and in different little sections and groups, and so that's how it is. In terms of other misconceptions, I'm just trying to think. There's so many with hyenas. Unfortunately, they've got such a bad rap, and Lion King is to blame for that. Everybody thinks hyenas are these horrible, disgusting animals, and they really, really aren't. They're an incredible animal, and one that I love spending time with. In fact, they're in my top 5 animals out here. I really enjoy hyenas because they're intelligent. They've got something about them. Their social structure is very interesting. They're also a matriarchal structure, which is a little bit more unusual. Let's see, can we get a view of that head? You've got a view? Cool. And so there's a lot about hyenas that I absolutely love and would really kind of suggest to anybody that goes on safari that try and spend some time with hyenas. Try and ask about them. They're animals that, like I say, have got such a bad reputation, and people don't like them and don't really want anything to do with them. And often I've taken guests out, and they the last thing they want to see is hyena. They don't want to see them at all because they think that they're dirty, horrible animals, and that's not true. They're a wonderful animal, and they've got so much to offer and so much to learn about them that, you know, if you can spend time around them, I would suggest that you do. It really is an incredible species to watch, and their intelligence is probably one of the biggest aspects of them. They are highly intelligent, and they have this ability to problem solve. So I was reading a study the other day where they were talking about how they would change parameters for the hyenas to be able to get food, and the hyenas would be able to work it out every single time, and it didn't take them long. And I've seen it here just in lodges. We would change the locks of the doors at Lion Sands. We had different types of doors, and the hyenas worked out first how to, the ones that you turn, the sort of circular shaped door handles, they worked out that if they put their mouth and turned it, they could open the door. And then we put the lever ones, and they worked out that they could also do it with their paws or their mouth. And so they would figure it out very quickly, and it's something that is quite amazing to watch. It doesn't take them long, and they're able to work out problems. Now, unfortunately, Ntima's gone down into the hole, so I think we're going to move out of here and leave her to rest. There's no sign of any of the adults, so the little ones are not going to come out, and Ntima is really not visible from where we are, and I don't really want to stress her in any way or push our luck. At least we got a brief glimpse of her, which is fantastic. So she's doing well, fit, healthy, and hopefully are as well. Let's try and negotiate this rather bumpy road out. A few buffalo thorns as well on our right hand side that we need to be a bit careful of. And so while we try and make our way out and contemplate where else we're going to go, let's go across to my tea spilling friend and co-partner Jamie in the Mara.
I have to tell you, this is the world's most obliging eland. We've been sitting here whilst Alex has been battling off the gremlins in final control, waiting to be able to show you this magnificent specimen. The largest antelope. And he really is massive. He looks as though he's been hitting the gym hard, but he's beautiful, isn't he? A massive eland bull, almost the size of a buffalo, essentially. And it's only when you're right up close to them that you realize just how large they actually are. And the bulls, of course, being much larger than the cows. And you can see he's got a massive dewlap in the front, big, thick, powerful neck, all basically for competing with other males for access to females. He really does look as though he's been powerlifting. Look at the muscles on his shoulders. Earlier on, I was so excited to show you, and of course it didn't work out that way, but there was an oxpecker that was sitting right in the middle between his horns. There it is. And this eland has not moved. Just been sitting staring at us. And he's not even ruminating. He's just having a lazy morning. There's the yellow-billed oxpecker hopping around, picking off the ticks and other parasites. He's magnificent, isn't he? The extraordinary thing, and one day it will happen, just because we spend so much time out here, I'll be able to show you how an eland can jump, how they can leap. And you wouldn't think it, because they're such, well, I mean, they're basically muscle-bound. But to see them jump upwards is breathtaking. Tim, absolutely, what a coat indeed. He's sort of a slaty grey. You can just see some white stripes lining his sides. Evidence of the family relationship between an eland or a kudu and Nyala. And of course goes back to the conversation we were having a little bit earlier about female antelope and their horns, where you've got most of the spiral-horned antelope family, the females don't have horns, and then with the eland, the largest member of that family, the females do have horns, and they live out in the open, whereas kudu, Nyala, bushbuck are all secretive creatures. Oh, that wasn't very comfortable, was it, buddy? Are you going to get up for us? That would be lovely. Starlight, you want to know if that is a tuft of curly hair on the top of his head. I assume you mean that dark patch of fur just around his forehead. And yes, it is much thicker around that area, around the base of his horns. It seems to protrude because that's where the horn growth basically inserts into the skull. So kind of like a buffalo's boss, but not as defined, where the horns meet the skull. So it looks like it's more prominent. The fur is very prominent around there, and that's because the bone is actually solidly protruding from that area. But yes, he does have quite an impressive forehead of hair, I guess you'd call it. Oh, his oxpeck is done. The full cleaning service has been completed. Right, we're going to start heading back towards the Angamas. Let's go from one very large grey thing to a slightly smaller one.
Indeed, we have our little warthog that are feeding ever so vigorously in the shade. It's really gotten hot in the last 15 minutes. The temperature has probably gone up, I would say 10 degrees, because it's feeling very warm. So our warthogs are just in a bit of small pocket of shade where they're rooting about with those snouts, and you can see the female is the one right in front, and then the little piglets, and then a big male towards the back left there. He's got massive tusks in comparison. I think it's a male. It looks like it's, I mean, no, back left.
This one, yeah.
Yeah,
that was a female, no?
Is it a female? I can't see nicely. It might be. Is that the one with the big tusks? It does have very big tusks. It might be a female. There is a female that walks around here with quite large tusks. I haven't seen very nicely because we've just been looking at the tail end. It does look like a female too. Nice, well done, Seb. So it is a female warthog. She's just a very large female warthog by the looks of things. Is this the one that James found that has got the little small warts in the middle of the face that is more typical of a male? I think it is, because she's got massive tusks and she's got small little bumps on her face that would be more indicative of a male, but she looks like a female by the... I'm just trying to see under the tail. It looks like it. There's so much glare this morning and we're staring into the sun that it's very difficult to see whether or not it was male or female. But they've disappeared now into the long grass, as warthogs do, but at least we got some glimpse of them kind of going down into the long grass. Sassy, you say you love watching dogs run. It is funny, isn't it? You kind of head, tail, and they kind of wiggle their way through. It's really quite funny to see. I always enjoy watching them as well. Hello, impalas. Now I think everybody is slowly but surely making their way to some semblance of shade at the moment, because it definitely has gotten fairly warm. And so everything seems to be moving from the crest areas, which is where the marula trees are that lack leaves, and the bush willows, and they're slowly but surely starting to head down towards the drainage sections, which will have the guarri trees and the big sort of tamburtis and those kind of things that have a lot more leaves and a lot more shade. Also, generally, if you head towards drainage sections, is towards water, so they might be heading towards Gallagher Pan for a bit of a drink. So we're going to follow suit, I think, and we're going to try and head along the Mulawati riverbeds. We're going to go down towards Twin Dams, see if our little friend Tumba is not hanging around there, and if he isn't, well, then we'll probably meander our way towards Treehouse Dam just to see if there's any elephants around. I would really like to spend some time with Ellies, so that's my plan for the rest of the morning. So Megan, if you can repeat that for me. Sorry, I didn't hear very nicely. I just heard Tina. So you say with spring coming up, will birds be coming up? I think, is that what I heard? Birds. Birds. Sorry, not birds. There we go. Sorry about that, Sina and Megan. Yes, there will be. So there will be lots of birds coming up. In fact, we're about to be inundated with baby animals. So the first one should be the warthogs. They're the first ones to normally have little ones, and that's around October time. So we'll see little piglets coming out in October. And then what we'll find is after them is the impalas. And the impalas are November, December, wildebeest around December, and then you'll find things like buffalo, giraffe, kudu. Those animals are a little bit more loose and will be spread out through the sort of summer period. But those are the kind of three big ones are the warthogs up front, and then the impalas, and then the wildebeest. So there'll be lots of little baby animals running around. We've already seen some bushbuck and Nyala with small babies, so they are having already. Zebras will be having at any time, giraffe at any time, so there should be a number of little babies. And we know the Styx Pride has just gotten new cubs as well, so they've got 4 brand new cubs in that pride. And so we've got new cubs in the Angama Pride, which should start coming out as well, and that will be nice to see all of them. It's just the only thing I wonder about those Angama cubs is that there's just really no sign of a female moving around in that area. To be honest, I haven't spent much time driving around there, but I just haven't seen any sort of tracks of female lion walking around and going from the pride to here, or moving around on her own. So I wonder if she hasn't moved that den, or she's just flying very low under our radar at the moment. The other day when we had the Angama Pride here on Djuma, there was only 4 of them in that grouping with the 6 cubs and Mfumo, so maybe she went and suckled them then, and then she's been off and back again without us really knowing about it. It's surprising though, because a lioness track is not a difficult thing to see, so unless she's been going into Arethusa and that side for food and water and then pops back into the den without us knowing it, it's difficult to say. It's interesting nonetheless, and hopefully, like I say, those cubs do make it, and then they'll be out and about. So lots of little baby animals and births, and hopefully we will get some births live. It's quite an amazing thing to watch these animals give birth. I know we've gotten the wildebeest giving birth on quarantine before. There's been the odd impala birth, which is quite nice, and the impalas are so cute. They kind of get born and then they all kind of wet and look as though they've been really unimpressed with life about being in the amniotic sac, and then they will basically from there break out, and then they start to wobble to their feet, and there's these little wobbly legs, and then they start bouncing around and bounding around everywhere. It is really cool to see, especially when they are in big groups and there's all playing on, when you get the cool mornings and you see these baby impalas running up and down quarantine and bounding and stotting and going crazy. It's very cool to see. So we can expect some births, which will be nice. Roshni, you say you're excited about the prospect of all the new babies as well as the migratory birds. But I think, Roshni, I'm in the same boat. I'm super excited that we're going to get all the migratory birds back. It's such a wonderful time of year when we start to see the cuckoos and the the woodland kingfishers and the Wahlberg's eagles, and then some of the larks that arrive, and it just gets quite colorful and vibrant and very much more vocal. So you'll find that it's a lot louder in this general vicinity than it would be if it was winter. So it's an exciting time, and like I say, there's a splash of color that is brought by a lot of these migratory birds. We have the crimson bee-eaters that will come in, and so there's also all kinds of others that are electric blues and greens and reds, and it's just very, very pleasant to be out here at that time. So I think you and many others, Roshni. I saw a bird flying off there, talking about birds, but it's now disappeared. It looked like possibly a ground scraper thrush. We know I know there's a pair that spends time in this general vicinity along Philemon's cut line, so often see them. There's a beautiful lilac-breasted roller in the morning light. Are you going to stay for us? It would be nice if you do stay. You can hear it calling a little bit as well. But look at the colors in the morning light. You can see this particular individual is very vibrant. It's got that beautiful lilac breast and then that electric blue on the wings, and off it goes into the next marula tree. Now this morning nobody has driven down here. There's been not one vehicle that has come down this way. Everybody has been up in the north with Mvula and with the Birmingham Mail on Buffelshoek. So it's going to be interesting to see what tracks are around, or if any tracks. I would imagine that maybe one vehicle might have come past Twin Dams, but I don't know about Treehouse Dam. I haven't heard anybody coming this way, so maybe there'll be a surprise for us at Treehouse Dam. I know that the Nkahuma Pride was last seen going into Torchwood, but nothing since then. They haven't come out anywhere. No one's managed to find them, but there were 2 Birmingham males that crossed into Torchwood this morning as well, so I'm imagining that the whole Pride and the Birminghams must be on that side, and then 1 Birmingham male in Buffelshoek, and I have no idea where the 4th Birmingham male is at this stage. Right, I'm going to make my way down towards Treehouse Dam and see what's happening there, but while I do that, it sounds like my friend Brent Leo Smith has decided that he's a little chilly, and the poor baby has now wrapped himself up in a little blankie, so let's hope he doesn't get too cold.
We just noticed an elephant behaving quite strangely. I thought it might be chasing a predator, but I'm not quite sure, and you might hear there's some big raindrops falling at the moment as well. What's the matter? It's a very distressed elephant. Came charging out of the forest. The way it was charging, I swore it must have found a predator, but maybe got stung by a bee. Looks very upset. It's calmed down a bit now. No, still being very upset about something. I know what it is. It must be the rain. I'm also upset about the rain. He's across the road. You can see it's taking no notice of the vehicles at the moment. It is a young bull. And it's got very cold. It was very warm this morning, so I didn't bring a jacket or a shuka. And apparently Tristan's commenting on that I'm wrapped up in my blanket. Is the elephant, maybe he wants a blankie, that's why he's upset. There are some elephants in the tree line where he's come from. Maybe he's been chased away by the older females in the herd, and that's causing him to be upset. There we go. That's where he came charging out of. There are some more elephants off to the right of him as well, down towards the river. That was fascinating, strange. Well, there he goes. Trumpeting. So upset with something. It does almost look like a scolded teenager throwing a temper tantrum. Shame. Still upset. And you can see it's nothing to do with the vehicles. I mean, he came from about... Oh, he's screaming again. No, I think this is a temper tantrum. Someone's been chastised. And down into the lugger. Flapping his ears about, trumpeting. Let's see if we can get another view a little bit further down. And all the other elephants are just completely ignoring him. Like, you just carry on there, mister. I have no time for your nonsense. So... here's another herd where he charged into. I can still hear him making noise, but I can't see him. But if you look at the others, they're just completely ignoring it. They're probably going, oh, that's Craig, he's full of nonsense. Just like Craig, the cameraman. Well, that was very, very interesting. I definitely think it was a temper tantrum. He's probably been sorted out by one of the big females, and he was just showing his distress. But the way he came charging out of the forest, I would have sworn he was chasing a lion. Oh, there he's back. Still making noise. Tail's still out. And you can see there are other elephants around him. Oh, now he's taking out on someone smaller. Shame, man. That's not very nice. Oh, as soon as the smaller one went close to a big female, he backed off. And there's another female coming in from the left, and they're just ignoring him. Well, let's see what happens here. No. You are being ignored, mister. There we go, disappearing into the riverine thickets. Oh, that was really, really interesting. Kyle's wondering, do elephants often act this way when they're kicked out of a herd? Not normally. They can throw temper tantrums and strops, but when they're truly kicked out of a herd, the females won't tolerate them like that. They won't just ignore them. They'll really push them out of the herd. So he's lucky. Maybe a few more temper tantrums and he will get kicked out of the herd. Now, I'm going to go wander along the edge of this tree line up ahead, and because it's so cold and cool this morning, I'm hoping we might have some black rhino luck in that area. But while we do that, it seems like Tristan is at Treehouse with a smelly antelope.
We are with a smelly antelope, Brent Leo Smith, and I'm sorry that you forgot your jacket. I know what that's like. I remember the one day I forgot my jacket and Brent lent me his. So I know what it's like, and you're forgiven for wearing your blanket then to make yourself warmer. But you can see we've got a few waterbuck on the dam wall that are halting progress, and everybody's a little on edge because for some reason there's a wildebeest behind us that it keeps snorting at us, and I don't know why. There's nothing else around. There's some zebras on my left, waterbuck in front of me, and the wildebeest behind me. So the chances of there being a predator in amongst all of this that this wildebeest is seeing is pretty much zero. I think he's just a nervous individual. Maybe he was part of the bunch that got hunted by the Angama and Birmingham's last week, and his friend died, and that's why he might be a little bit on the edgy side. But the waterbuck are busy watching him, and then there's the zebras. They're also really not too perturbed by what's going on. They've got their heads up watching the wildebeest when he snorts, but otherwise really not worried. They're having a bit of a feed and slowly meandering around. And it's a small group. I think it looks like a group of stallions all together, a young bachelor herd. This is only 4 of them in total. Not very big at all, so nice to see them though. They've been hanging around quite a bit, this little bachelor herd, and they tend to hang around quite deep in the blocks. They don't like to come out near the roads that often, and they seem to be a little bit more on the shy side because they were also on the dam wall, and they promptly made their way into the thicket when we arrived just to try and sort of get away from us a little bit. So it's interesting that they sort of a little bit nervous. I wonder if it's because they're young males that they don't want to be too close to the vehicles. Over time, I would imagine they'll relax. The more we spend time with them, the more relaxed they'll get. But Treehouse Dam seems to be antelope heaven this morning with these, like I say, 3 different species all together here. I'm sure there is an impala somewhere around. There generally are some impalas around Treehouse, and there was a slender mongoose also, and I don't know if it's our suicidal slender mongoose from Hyena sighting the other day. So those of you who missed it, we had a slender mongoose up in a tree feeding off Hosana's kill, and as we arrived it did the suicidal dive into the bush, and so I wonder if it's the same individual that we just saw running across the road at Treehouse Dam as well. How strong are waterbuck horns? Well, very strong. They, just like any other antelope's horns, they're made of bone, which fuses to the skull and then is covered by this brown grey keratin sheath that you see over there. And these guys, I've seen waterbuck fighting many times. The amount of force that must be applied to those horns is huge, and they mostly withstand it. Every now and then you will see a break. But funny enough, they don't tend to break their horns nearly as much as what you see on impalas. Impalas seem to break their horns a lot more, but then again, they do fight for much longer periods of time. You'll find with impalas, they during the rutting season are pushing each other back and forth all the time, and if there's a little crack that develops because of the fighting and how much they do, it probably worsens. Whereas this waterbuck, it's very seldom that they'll have prolonged months of fighting. They fight quite quickly and establish a dominance, and then that male will mate fairly sort of quickly. It's not like they're going to fight on and on and on and on and on and on. The density of waterbuck is far less than what you see with impalas, and so you don't see broken horned waterbuck very often at all. Also, they're a big bulky antelope, so the base of that horn gets very big and thick when you have massive sets of horns. Little steenbok is what the zebra started running. I thought maybe the wildebeest had seen something. You can see, look how the waterbuck all perked up as well, and I thought maybe they'd seen something, but there was a little steenbok that came running out from that area, and that's what gave everybody a bit of a fright. So no leopard or predator. Everybody can just calm down and relax. No need to stress. It's all gonna be easy today. Hopefully these guys have all had a better day than what we've had, because we've had a rough day, rough morning. Hey Seb?
Yep.
Easy this morning. Tested patience from every level. We had, just to give you an idea of what our morning, how it all played, I wandered down. I was early this morning, feeling very chipper about life, had a bit of a spring in my step, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I was slowly but surely making my way down to the car. Noticed that Rusty had a flat tire, so thought, well, we'll just try and pump that up a little bit and see, because sometimes we get just a slow leaking of air and it's not too bad and we can get away with the drive. So started pumping it out. Turned out that the valve had been pinched, and therefore it was just spurging air all over the place, and that was the end of that. So then we changed that tire. Once we changed the tire, then we had to take the spare wheel off Wendy so that we had a spare wheel on Rusty, and did all of that. We then went out on Rusty, no signal on Rusty. For some reason, Rusty decided yesterday that he would be a champion, and made out yesterday. Rusty decided this morning, I'm not doing it. You can't make me. And so we had to then come back to Wendy, who was in no state to be going out at all, because Wendy didn't have fuel, wasn't clean, because we haven't really been driving Wendy. So I had to quickly clean Wendy, fuel it, sort out the battery that wasn't charging. Then we had to put in antifreeze and clutch fluid and brake fluid, because that had all sort of drained a little bit over the last few weeks. Put the spare wheel back onto Wendy and then head out again. And then of course with Mvula we were battling with signal there. So it's been a trying morning, and in the process of all of that I knocked over my teacup all over Rusty's dashboard. So Wendy's dashboard is nice and clean, but Rusty's dashboard had tea all over across there, and a little tea bag from where it had fallen out of my cup. It was really a very sad sight, and just what I needed after all of that. So it was a tough morning, and poor Seb got roped into doing all of it with me, because, well, that's unfortunately how it is. If you're the cam op, you get roped into doing some of the jobs the presenters have to do. So we both had nice filthy greasy hands this morning, and it was a wonderful way to start the day. Certainly woke us up, that's for sure. Warmed us up and woke us up. There we go. So we were all fine by the time we actually got going, and now, well, it's just a beautiful morning to be out. It's hot this morning, so it's going to be an interesting day to see how hot it actually gets. Apparently it's supposed to get to 38 degrees Celsius, which is I think about 100 Fahrenheit, maybe a little bit more than that. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know if it's going to get that hot. There's a bit of a breeze blowing, so hopefully that will keep things cooler. But if the breeze gets hot, then it's going to be very unpleasant. I actually was reading the fire index, and today it's got a red fire index, which means that it is a very high risk of fires and that we need to be very careful today. Yesterday was a yellow, today is a red, and then Friday it goes to a green because the temperatures go down and the wind goes down. Now, from a very hot, warm Sabi sands, let's go across to Jamie, who I hope has remembered her jersey in a cooler Mara.
Actually managed to pick the right side of the drainage line. So we've caught up once again with our Angama pride, and I'm so sorry. Here's a guide that was trying to chat to me. Here we go. Not particularly enthusiastic about their morning. That looks like a really precarious place to sleep, if that lioness is picked. If she rolls over, she's going to go tumbling down into the drainage line. She won't. But I know those of you with pet cats probably have seen your cats do it occasionally, when they roll over and they don't realize how close to the edge of the bed or the couch they are, and they fall off and then look really embarrassed. I've seen leopards do it in trees. That lioness definitely doesn't want to go tumbling down there, though. A sleepy puddle of lions. And I think that's going to be their plan, which seems like a good one. The weather's turned cold. It's cloudy, it's windy. It was raining earlier. I think that's where they're going to camp out for the day. I'm going to see if I can try and get us a slight... this might be our best possible view, unfortunately. I'm glad we came back just to check on them. Michael, very good question. So Michael's question is, we often talk about the fact that there are disadvantages to being the youngest member of a pride, so the youngest litter, and you were wondering if there were any advantages to it. I suppose there's a possibility that their skills actually essentially develop slightly faster just because they are forced into a situation where they have to fight back against cubs that are much, much larger than themselves. I guess that's a possibility. I'm trying to think if there's any other advantages. For the older cubs, of course, the females, because they allosuckle, it means that the older cubs actually get to suckle for longer, because once their mothers have stopped lactating, if there's a female with younger cubs, she'll still be lactating and she'll let them feed. The older cubs are better at fighting for a place at the carcass. Are there any advantages? Can anyone else think of any advantages to being the youngest member of the pride? I suppose there's more eyes to keep an eye out for danger. You know what there might be is the fact that the older cubs are more experienced. So when the lionesses, that's very cool. Tail mingling with the overhanging grass. I suppose when the lionesses leave the cubs, when it's just one set of cubs and it's their sort of first experience of that, they might be less aware of the dangers, particularly when they're little. And then if it's a younger set of cubs with an older set of cubs, the older cubs might have a bit more common sense and a bit more awareness of what's going on around them, so they're less likely to get into trouble. And of course, because they're instinctive and social creatures, if the older cubs run away, the younger cubs will follow. So there's one, I would say. They're less likely to be, perhaps, I don't know what the statistics would say to back that up, but perhaps less likely to get themselves into trouble when they're on their own. Then again, older cubs tend to be more curious and could lead the younger ones astray. Everybody's having a serious snooze. Brr, weather's definitely taken a turn for the gloomy. It's been so much fun this morning just trundling around, reacquainting myself with the area. I'm glad the first lions I've seen as I got back were the Angamas. Now, Chantal, I don't know if you know, but you were using the wrong radio earlier. Just to let you know, in case you're trying to go live with someone and we've got a mix-up. Apologies, not throw you under the bus or anything, but just to warn you. While our Angamas are snooze away, let's go and find out what Brent's lions are up to.
There's the baby.
Well, I'm with a third pride, and only one lioness is visible, but it is quite thick here, and it is part of the Mara River pride, and they've swum across from the Paradise Plain on the other side. And for those of you who remember the last of our TV shows, it was this pride that was chasing the two cheetah sisters. Amani's daughters, if I remember correctly. It's Amani's daughters, and it was this pride that was chasing them. Now, she's very fat, and there's probably a few more hidden in this long grass somewhere, and I think they've had a meal around here. And the reason I think that, apart from her obese belly, is the fact that there is a batalier sitting in the tree above, and often the first on the kills, and we're waiting for the lions to move off so it can take advantage of the scraps that remain. Definitely worth coming to have a look here this afternoon as it gets a bit later, because there could be some movement in this area. This is a very big pride. As I said, we only can see one lioness at the moment, but it is quite a big pride. There could be a lot more, so they could still be hungry. And it looks like she's disappeared into the grass. There she is. Hello, pretty lady. Giving herself a good groom before she decides to plonk over. I don't think she's going to move too far during the day today. Eduardo is wondering, which pride of lions do we run into the most? Well, Eduardo, it all depends on which area we're working. If we're staying in the north of the triangle, the Angama pride is the most common. Around the crossings, the Paradise pride, and around this area, the Mara River pride, or the Magoro pride a little bit further south. If you're up against the escarpment, the Sausage Tree pride, and then down south near the Tanzanian border, the Salt Lake pride. And then, of course, when you go across to the other side of the river, Sala's pride, Ronkai pride, Purangat pride. So it all depends on the area that we're in. So there are many, many lions, and it depends where we're working. So we're lucky enough to spend lots of time with lots of different prides, and that's what makes one of these coming on these live safaris so exciting. We do get to know many different prides over the time we spend with them. She's looking quite lazy and hiding in the long grass, so I think we're going to skedaddle on and see what else we can find. But not bad so far. 3 different prides of lions this morning. We've seen Paradise Pride, and now Mara River, and of course the Angama Pride with Jamie. Jono would like to know the evolutionary point of the black tip to the lion's tail. Is it for another lion to follow when they're moving? Now, initially, a lot of people thought it was specifically to do with cubs. So the cubs are able to follow the lionesses through long grass and thick grass while they're moving. But having spent a lot of time with lions and a lot of time with lion researchers, there's a very interesting studying going on at the moment, which I am a big believer in. And that is that... Oh, I've lost the road. Oh, no, there it is. Is that there's a very particular reason why the lions have that black tip, and it's for visual communication. So if you ever watch lions hunting and you watch the lionesses as they spread, the little flicks of the tail and the ear and the black behind the ear, I also think plays an important role in this. It enables them to communicate without making a noise, which of course when you're stalking can be very important. See, I knew that there's a male around here somewhere as well, and I tell you why I say that. And I said we only saw one, but there's some male tracks in the mud here, and this rained last night. There's actually lion tracks all around. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of lions here. As I said, the Mara River Pride's quite a big pride, and I've seen them quite a few times in this area. And there we go, some big footprints all about here, up and down and all over. Well, let's have a quick look around. Maybe we can find one or two more lions in this area. While we do that, let's go see how Jamie's doing a little bit further to the north of us.
A bit further to the north, and I'm much happier now that the sun has come up, because it has transformed the scene next to us. So we've got our lions now. What was just a scene with sleeping lions is now beautiful and golden, and really quite lovely to look at. I don't think the Angamas are going to be up too much, and unfortunately, since this is the best view, we're probably going to leave them shortly and go off. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll find a male lion as well. I'm so excited for this week. I really want to go and spend time with those cheetah. Been saying that for weeks now, and I haven't had the opportunity to do it. I think this week is our week. Go across to the other side of the river. She looks so comfortable. Good morning to Ali. Now, Ali's wondering about the effects of the weather on the animals. I don't think the cold bothers them too much. I've seen particularly with small cubs, and when they've been rained on or something like that and it's cold and windy, I've seen them shiver a little bit. But otherwise, I mean, lions actually have it the best of all of them, because they can just go and lie on top of another lion and warm each other up. It doesn't really bother them. I don't think they feel it as acutely as we do. Of course, there's no way to go and shelter when it pours with rain. That being said, I have seen lions looking thoroughly miserable in the rain. If you watch them when it's really pouring and they sort of try and make themselves smaller and tuck their heads under and try and minimize their size as much as possible, I don't think it bothers them a huge amount. And of course, one of the things that we have spoken about is the fact that it's colder here in general, so everything's a little bit fluffier than they are in South Africa, especially the hyenas. Right, let's jump back. Speaking of South Africa, let's jump back to Tristan, who is in the Mulwati.
And I'm with a beautiful group of female Nyalas with a tiny little baby in the middle. You can see its legs just poking out at the back there. So it's a little one. It's probably, I would say, about a month old now, maybe even less. But look at how small it is. It's so cute. A little one. You can see a little bit wobbly still on the legs, not quite as confident. In fact, I think it might even be younger than that. That might even be not even a week. It's still quite thin, so it's not a very old Nyala at all, that little one. And you're going to have to be careful in the Mulwati. There's lots of little antelopes, lots of predators that will want to get to you. You can see it's so small. Mom, don't run over your baby. You look incredibly good. It's almost like somebody has taken a paintbrush and done these perfect pinstripes, and each one will have a unique pattern. So you go to each one of those, and the white lines will be slightly different, and they'll all be unique, and it's almost like a fingerprint. So you can recognize Nyala if you were willing to invest time in checking out each striping pattern and spot pattern and watch them. Unfortunately, with Nyala, we don't see them as regularly as some of the others, and also we really don't spend as much time around them that it's difficult to remember who is who. But this is, like I say, a really nice grouping. There's, as far as I can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them, so which is quite a lot for us. We generally don't see big groupings like this. We normally see 1 or 2. It's very seldom that we'll get so many, and I reckon they're here because they're feeding off maybe the jackalberry fruits that have fallen. So they're under a big jackalberry tree, bless you, Seb, and those jackalberry fruits maybe get disturbed by some of the birds that land there, and they're making use of those fruits. Remember, they wouldn't be able to climb up there, so it's a nice added bonus that they can get to be able to get some of those fruits, which is really good. Well, there is some good news, is that the Angama Pride sounds like is moving towards Djuma. They are on Torchwood, moving this way, so hopefully we will get them this afternoon. And I believe the injured female is there and that she's not looking very good, but we'll have a look this afternoon and see how she's doing. I'm sure she'll be okay. I looked at the wound I got a picture of it and looked at it. It doesn't look nice at all, but I think it looks a lot worse than it actually is. So it's one of those fish wounds, like Mfumo's face, and it's going to, in fact, I suppose not like Mfumo's face because it's about 20 times the size, but it's one of those where they look really bad and they're going to be lots of sort of oohs and ahs about it, but should be okay, should be able to come right and survive it. As long as it's a flesh wound and there's no damage to the legs or any of the ligaments or anything like that, it's normally a lot easier. Oh, there's a brown-headed parrots here. You see them, Seb? Straight above us. So you know what they're actually feeding on? I said it was a jackalberry, but it's not. It's actually a scotia that they're busy feeding on. There's some beautiful sunbirds in there as well. There's the brown-headed parrots. So the parrots are lower down in the tree. There they are, right in the middle of your frame, Seb. You can see them bouncing around there. So that's the brown-headed parrots. You can see they're busy pulling off the fruits from the scotia, and that's what the impalas are eating. As these animals are bringing them out, you see they keep dropping some, then that's what the impalas are then eating. And watch how this parrot goes about it. You see it pulls it off, and then it bites it, and it's actually squashing the seed out, and then dropping the exterior of the fruit. You see that? And then crunching down on the seed. That's amazing. That's very cool to see. And parrots are not the ones that we get to see that often. There's also a few sunbirds, but I can't see which sunbirds they are. They look like Mariko sunbirds that are inside here. It's difficult because it's very much against the light. But they are darker sunbirds. So in this area we will get the amethyst sunbird, the scarlet-chested, and then there will also be Marikos. Yes, there it is. There's a Mariko up above us. On the left-hand side... Oof, it's going to be difficult though. There's also a squirrel in the tree that's also feeding. There's a hive of activity here. These kind of trees are the best things. When you get flowering trees, it is the best thing to sit and watch because you get so many different birds that come in and feed off everything. Now with the Marikos, you've got to be a bit careful because I know Brent has seen a purple banded here before. It is very, 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 very unlikely that there are purple bandeds here, but you've got to just check and make sure. I'll show you now what a Mariko sunbird looks like. I don't know if you can see it bouncing around there in the bush. It's that darker sunbird with the green and the bit of red on it. And Brent has seen a purple banded, which is very similar, so it's always worth just checking out and making sure. Now, purple bandeds don't really occur here, so it's a special bird to see if it is amongst them. Not saying that there is one here, just saying that we have to look out for them. Right, so I've got my sunbirds in the book. I think it's going to be easier if I show you from here. Can you still see it? There it is. So you can see it bouncing around, feeding on the flowers. So they're not actually fruiting yet, it's flowers that they're after, which is why the sunbird is here. They just move so fast, it's so difficult for Seb to be able to actually get them on camera. At least you've had good practice with Byron the last little bit. So there we go, there's our Mariko sunbird. You can see it's got that dark kind of black and green on it. So I was saying earlier that you'll get the Marikos here, which is this bird on the right hand side. And you can see it's got that dark sort of green backing to it, and then a black chest with that purple band and that blue as well that you see over there. The purple banded sunbird, as you can see over here, looks very similar, but look at how small the purple band is. Very narrow in comparison to the Mariko sunbird. So otherwise looking very similar and very difficult to distinguish if you have only quick glimpses. So it's always good just to check and make sure they've all got that broad purple band and not the narrow purple band that we see there. Very nice though. Nice to see some sunbirds, because sunbirds are such a beautiful species and nice to see them around. We don't get to see them that often. In fact, there's also a white-bellied sunbird up there as well. Now, talking about birds, I believe Brent is doing a spot of birding of his own, but his seems to be part of the goth family rather than the colourful family of sunbirds we have.
Well, I tried to get one on camera this morning. It has been one of my nemesis to get on camera, and it is the Sooty Chat. There we go. Isn't he gorgeous? And that is he's got little white patches on his shoulder. I'm going to try get a little bit closer. I just wanted to make sure we're playing it safe. And I'm trying to see where his girlfriend is. So the girlfriend's also that lovely sooty black, but she lacks the white patches on the shoulder. She was hopping about Oh, he's flying away again. Ah, there she is. She's feeding on termites, it looks like. So there was quite a bit of rain in this area last night, and there she is. And you can see the termites have been rebuilding one of the chimneys, and it looks like she's taking advantage of that. Now, it looks like she's feeding. They sometimes also will collect nesting material from there. And you see, she's lovely and dark, but lacks those very striking and distinct white shoulders that the male has. Now, ooh, hello. Oh, I've got a good test for our birders out there. In the road, Craig, right in front of us, is a little bird, and quite often very difficult to get on camera because they are such fast flyers. Now, look at that. So very, very pretty. A very distinct little red cap on the head, and a very, very, very white breast. Now, I wonder who is going to be able to tell me what bird this is. Remember, #Safari Live. If you know what bird this is, this could be a new one for the Mara list. And just basking in the sun and enjoying the early morning light. Now, it has been a morning of all weather. It started off wonderful and warm early in the morning. It got cold, windy and rainy. And now the sun is coming out and it's starting to get beautifully, beautifully warm again. I think it's going to be an absolutely gorgeous day. Giving itself a preen. So I wonder who's going to be able to tell me what swallow that is. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Before they fly. Ooh, we're getting there. Sneak, sneak. Don't fly away, don't fly away. So there's a pair of them. And Fuzzman Sparkles wonders if we've seen any turacos in the Mara. Indeed, we have. We have the most two common species of turaco in the Mara is the Ross's turaco, which we see around camp. And I know Taylor was very, very excited. She saw her first Ross's turaco recently, since being up here. There we go. I've got a picture of the turaco for those who are wondering what it looks like. So there we go. So, let me move. There we go. So it's a brilliant blue with red on the edge of the wings and a red crest with a very heavy set yellow bill. Let's come out a bit quickly, Craig, and I'll show you the other. I don't know what's going on. A turaco, yes, that's right. The other turaco we get here. Well, I've forgotten how to spell it. I'll find it for you quickly. Is a Scallows turaco. I'm trying to remember. SCH, if I remember correctly. There we go, Scallows turaco. And they're also incredibly beautiful. And that actually is the most common I see around our camp. We don't really get them too often down in the base here. They prefer on the edge of the escarpment in the forested areas. So a very beautiful bird. Okay, Let us continue on. Now, there's a very good birding spot just up here as you go across the Shenny Bridge. I've seen all sorts there, so I wonder if we're going to have any luck in that area. Now, while we were on leave, we actually saw some incredible birds, and the birding in Nairobi, and particularly around Karen, is very, very good. And we even saw heartlet Turako in the middle of Nairobi, which is quite special, and white-starred robin as well. John says they were brown-headed, white-breasted birdies. Well, I think that's quite an apt description, but we're looking for a little bit more scientific, but a good go nonetheless. Oh, we're nearly at the good birding spot. I'm hoping we might see some batises there. Mr. P says a black pepper spring mustard. Oh, we've got some comedians out there today. I wonder who's actually going to get which bird it is. Now, as the sun's come out after the rain, a little forested area like this is going to be very good for birding. See if idle in, see if we can spot any feathered friends.
Oh dear, it seems as though Brent has disappeared once again. I'm feeling a little bit like the crash cut central this morning. Our signal seems to have been the most stable throughout the day. Well, since Brent has disappeared, I don't know if he even gave you the answers to his quiz, but we're enjoying the company of a Mara gentleman. And this old bull spends a lot of time around this particular area, so I would say I see him at least 4 times a week. And of course, now that I'd like to show him to you, he's decided to turn his back on us. But he is a beautiful old elephant. I say old, 40 plus, if I had to guess. A well-established gentleman. And he's also such a polite elephant. When he comes wandering by, he'll give you plenty of space. He isn't bothered. He isn't young and trying to prove himself as the biggest thing out here. He isn't bothered showing us his face either. Hey, mister. He's one of the biggest tuskers I've seen here. I know there are some that are larger, but he's one of the biggest ones I've seen. Now, JC, while we look at his backside, you want to know if dye has been used on any of the elephant's tusks out here. Not as far as I know. I haven't seen any of them. It's a tricky one, because that dye, I particularly with rhino horn, less so with elephants because of course they're poached for their ivory, which is used in an ornamental way, but particularly with dyeing something like rhino horn, you've got A, advertise that you've dyed your rhino horn, and B, it doesn't actually stop the poachers from hunting the rhino, unfortunately, because it still doesn't devalue the horn itself. So it's a really tricky one. I haven't seen any dyed elephant tusks. It is one way of potentially discouraging poachers. It's a tricky business. It means you have to anesthetize the elephant, which carries with it the standard risks. Animals often don't wake up. Hello, boy, there you go. And still, ivory is ivory, even if it's pink or purple. I'm not sure that it's the solution. I'm not saying I know the solution. I'm just saying I guess it's one possible answer. But unfortunately, I'm not sure how effective it truly is. He is beautiful, isn't he? I love sitting in their company and just watching them. The peace. Elephants that are around about 40 years of age, which is why you get these massive tuskers around that age. They actually their tusks start to grow much, much faster than they did throughout the rest of their lives. Obviously a reproductive strategy, becoming the biggest, most impressive bull elephant out there and passing on their genetics. Because in the life of an elephant, if you're a male, chances are they're not going to have a chance to mate until they're over 30. And that's simply because if there's competition, if they're the smallest one in the group, they're not going to be able to outcompete the males. That's in a natural environment where there are large males to fight them off. Christy, you'd like to know how I can tell his age. Christy, I'll be honest, I am guessing. I'm no expert at exactly aging elephants. I will tell you that one of the things that we look for, if we can have a look at his temporal regions, Manu, just around his head. No, don't. Oh, thanks, boy. You see how prominent the bones are around his face? You see how slightly sunken his temples are around, just his temples, essentially. And how prominent his spine is, he's not in the best condition. He is a little bit thin. And just the size of his tusks, the size of the bull, I'm guessing at around about 40, possibly even older. And of course, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that the elephant's teeth wear down. They only have 6 sets of teeth throughout their lives. And once they reach their final set of teeth, once those wear down, they start to lose condition because they can't chew and they can't digest their food as well as they could. Plus, natural aging. Skin loses elasticity, the subcutaneous fat layer diminishes, and their bones become slightly more prominent. And when you see a really old elephant, it's unmistakable. They've got very sunken heads. That's when you know you're in the venerable presence of an animal that's lived a very full life. Bye-bye, boy. Just like that. Sloping off. Imagine what it's like to walk around with that amount of weight on the end of your face. And those are not massive they're big, but they're not nearly as large as elephant tusks can get. Imagine walking around with over 100 pounds. Off marches our elephant. We're going to start heading towards home. It seems as though Tristan is very close to camp.
I am indeed. I'm sitting with some Egyptian geese down at Gowrie Dam, and we're just marveling at how little water is left. And on a day like today that's windy and hot, that water is disappearing at a rate of knots. You can see the little pan that was on the right hand side there has now officially dried up. There's just mud, no longer any water there. So that's in the last 3 days that's dried, and we'll find that the rest of Gowrie Dam is going to decrease rapidly over the next little bit. If we keep temperatures like this and wind like this dam is not going to last very long. And I wonder if that's why we're not seeing as many elephants around here. That water is no longer sort of clean. It's not very much of it. It's quite muddy. So I think that's why the Ellies have decided probably not to come down as much to this area. So it is a bit desolate and dry at this stage. There are the odd birds around. You can see a few impalas that came drifting down to have a drink on the right hand side there, but they have now moved off and into the shade. I think they're going to desperately seek some sort of shelter there. But it amazes me how quickly this has dried. It really is. If I think about 2 months ago, we couldn't even drive between the dam wall and the water, and it was this big kind of lake, and now it's just this little puddle in the middle. It also shows you how well Buffelshoek Dam and Treehouse Dam and Twin Dams have survived this dry season. Far better than Gowrie Dam. I wonder if it's because Gowrie Dam has had just that much more elephant pressure than the others. I don't know, because the elephants obviously also drink a lot. And we know we've had a number of big herds coming down to Gowrie Dam to drink. It is going to be a good place, though, for a bit of wallowing. I wouldn't be surprised we get the odd buffalo, if there are any buffalo even left in the Kruger National Park, or elephants even rolling around in that. They'll like that. Warthogs, they'll enjoy this muddy section as well. Well, I wonder, that's a very good question. I spoke to Rexon about it the other day. In terms of pumping water into the nest cam pan, the small little pan over there, he said to me that they were going to do it, so that was a month ago already. So I'm not sure why there's no water going in there at the moment. Maybe there's an issue with the pump, or they're waiting for this water to dry out. I'm not quite sure, but they do need to start pumping fairly soon. What's that flying over there, Seb? It looks like a pale-form Wahlbergs. Is it a pale-form Wahlbergs? That'll be nice if it is. Oh, it's flying away from us, of course. Turn for me. It looks like a Wahlbergs eagle. It's got a very long rectangular tail there, you can see as it's turning, and it's got quite white underneath. So it does look like a pale-form Wahlbergs. It is a pale-form Wahlbergs that is flying away. So there we go. So I remember, James, you were asking me yesterday whether the pale form is back, and there it is. So that's our pale form Wahlbergs that has arrived back just in time for when you were asking, and off it goes into the wind and behind the marula tree and over the lodge. So that's really great news to see. I'm very happy about that. That's very, very cool. Nice. Well done, Seb. So that's a good bird to see. What a way to finish off our morning. Nothing better than a pale form Wahlbergs to brighten one's day, and that's, I'm sure, the pair now is back, because we saw the dark form and now the pale form, so I'm sure this is our twin dams pair that is back now, and hopefully they'll be prepping the nest to now, just slowly meandering my way back up towards quarantine as we slowly make our way back home and get onto the myriad of problems that we need to sort out before this afternoon. So to try up and running and to get Wendy all sorted out as well, and see if we can't get the signal around the Mvula sighting better, because I'd like to head back there this afternoon and try and catch up with our old fella as he moves. Maybe we get lucky with him and they're still around, and then we'll also obviously try and see if we can find the Nkuma Pride if they've moved in this general direction, which will be quite nice to catch up with them. It's been a while since we've seen them, so it would be nice to see all of those members, and I wonder if any of the Birmingham boys are there too. Right, we're going to meander home. Let's go back to Brent in the Mara so you can say goodbye to all of you, and we'll see you this afternoon.
Welcome back, and look at that. Isn't that a funny looking bird? Are we on full zoom there, Craig? Look at that. Now that is a funny looking bird, isn't it? Now I just noticed it hopping in amongst the rocks hunting. It's a juvenile gymnogene or African harrier hawk, but it's still getting its adult plumage, so there will be a lovely grey colour. At the moment, looking a little bit bedraggled, but very, very interesting behaviour. Watching them skip between the rocks, probably hunting for lizards, and of course they've got their legs, they're able to dislocate to get into crevices to get things out. And by the way, well done to Sally in Oregon, who got that swallow correct. It was indeed a wire-tailed swallow. Now, the one thing, looking at a raptor, and I know Tristan had a brief view of one as well, that I'm very excited for in the Mara, is the movement of all the migrant eagles. So I was chatting to a bird researcher here, and apparently they move along these cliff faces, and you can see hundreds of steppe eagles, lesser spotted eagles, Wahlbergs, all heading down to the south. So I think that is definitely going to be something I'm very, very excited to see. And one other thing I was hoping to find here, and you see them often on these rocks, and initially when I saw that African harrier hawk jumping around in the rocks there, I thought it could be an auger buzzard, and they're very common up along this area, and hunting for lots of different rodents. And that could be what that African harrier hawk's after as well. Oh, and I can hear the chorus of the Mara. I can't see it, which is of course the rufous-naped lark, but he's being, oh, there he is, sitting on top of the little termite mound right next to us, being very well camouflaged. You got him there, Craig. There we go. Got his little rufous crest up. Look at that. There you can see the little crest. And it's not often you get to see them displaying it. So that was quite lucky. Oh, you can see how red it is. So he's advertising from atop of his termite mound. All stretching. Oh, that is very nice. Well, it's been absolutely splendid having you on safari with us this morning. And you guess what the most exciting thing is? Craig, do you know what the most exciting thing is? We do it all again in a few short hours this afternoon. And I was hoping we got rufous-napped lark. Can we add one more last bird species before the end of the safari? I don't think so. I think we're just going to have to enjoy the chirping of the rufous-napped lark sitting on top of his termitaria. And from all of us here at Safari Live, Jamie and myself in the Mara and Tristan at Djuma, we will see you all in a few short hours. Goodbye.